Hello friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Danny and today we're going to talk through the genre blend of mystery horror. This is a genre blend that I have really enjoyed in the past, and then I also feel like some books are classified as mystery horror and they're actually thrillers, which I have not enjoyed. So I think that it's a very fine line when someone says, or Goodreads says that something is a mystery horror. And so I wanted to give you guys some examples of books that I find to be mystery horror, or at least the level of mystery horror that I want them to be. And then I'm also going to tell you a TBR book that I have that matches each of the recommendations that I'm going to give you. And hopefully you all have some recommendations for me as well. So as I kind of explain what I do and don't like about the genre, I hope to give you kind of a well-rounded definition of what I mean by mystery horror. So let's start there. Let's start with our my general definition of what a mystery horror, what am I expecting from a mystery horror book in general. I would say that there are going to be two facets, and it's going to depend on which genre we are more heavy in. So obviously there's going to be books that are like 50-50, although I haven't found many of them. That would be lovely. But if I am going to say that I'm leaning a little bit heavier on mystery, and I think this might be my preference for the mix of the two, when we have a mystery that is written as, maybe you're following the detective solving a crime or an amateur sleuth solving a crime, whether or not it be a murder or somebody going missing, even like haunted house stories, if we are investigating what's happening with the haunted house, that I think those are mystery components as well. And then as the investigation unfolds, horrifying things, horror elements are brought into the mystery. Whether or not those things inevitably lead to a supernatural discovery or, more knowledge that is more than our world, otherworldly, I guess I'll say. I don't care. I think I do prefer if a book does go more supernatural and leans heavier into even the fantasy genre than just staying in our world. I think I'm more critical if we stay in our world. But to consider it a mystery horror, it just has to have the horror elements in it. It doesn't necessarily have to come to fruition to actually be something supernatural. If we go into the books that are maybe set more in a horror setting as opposed to the mystery setting where we have like the detective solving crimes, if we have an element of nature or something that people have found eerie, atmospheric, haunted houses, people acting strangely, lore surrounding a town, but then we take the mystery and we are solving that mystery throughout those horror novels, those are what I would deem mystery horrors. I do think that the thing I have to have in order to consider it a mystery horror is we have to have that investigative piece. I don't just want to be wandering, not trying to figure out what's happening, finding them out by chance. I want someone to be digging into what's going on in order for it to be considered a mystery horror. So now that I've given you kind of a very broad definition of what I would expect from that genre blend, I'm going to give you some recommendations and then what I plan on reading next. Now, the TBR that I'm going to give you guys, or the three books that I'm going to give you guys as far as the books that I will be reading, I can't guarantee that these are mystery horror in my mind because I haven't read them yet, but bear with me. My first recommendation for you guys is actually the inspiration for this video, and it's not a 5-star read. It is a 4.25 is what I ended up giving it, but I really enjoyed it and I haven't heard many people talk about it. So I wanted to kind of shout it out to the universe and see if anyone would be interested in picking it up. It's called A House of Bells, and it is a historical mystery horror that is about a governess whose job it is to take care of deaf and mute children and help them communicate with the people around them, whether or not that be through sign language or actually teaching them how to speak if they can, and kind of being an advocate for those children. However, her world is a little bit darker than you would expect. She does have some connection to spirits and ghosts, and that impacts her job and her life, I guess, in general. She gets herself wrapped into a care situation. She's trying to care for this young girl who is staying in a household where someone she knew died. And she is trying to navigate keeping the kids safe while also trying to figure out what happened, also navigating the expectations of the family members with this young girl. And it's such a complex story. There's a lot of things going on. And I really liked the pairing with the spirit world and the historical components. And I do think that this book does a really good job of showing what it was like for people, especially children, to grow up deaf or mute in this time frame, how they were treated, how they were seen as less than. And the main character is just an incredible advocate for them in a time where that was not the norm. And so I really appreciated that component of this story too. So that's my first mystery horror recommendation for you guys. I will say that I'm going to be reading In the Lonely Hours to try and maybe find a book that is similar. Really, it's the one that I found that was most similar. It doesn't have great ratings on Goodreads, but I just think it sounds interesting. If you haven't heard of In the Lonely Hours, I'll put a picture of the cover up on the screen. This says, on a small island in a remote corner of northwest Scotland lies Mondrell Castle, owned by its wealthy namesake family for centuries, until now. Edwina Nunn is shocked to learn that a relative she'd never heard of has bequeathed the castle and its land to her. What awaits Edie and her daughter, Neve, is even more startling, for the castle is home to a multitude of ghosts. Yet there's a strange beauty in the austere architecture and eerie, bloody waters of the loch. Beguiled by a frightened ghost who gazes longingly out of the castle's windows, Edie and Neve are drawn to the legends surrounding the island and the mystery of the Mondrell Red, a princess diamond that disappeared decades before. And then it goes into talking about how this diamond might be cursed, and that might be what happened to the people who used to own this castle. It's not exactly a one-to-one comparison. It definitely sounds more horror than mystery, whereas I would say the House of Bells is more mystery than horror. But I do think that it might have that pairing that I really enjoy of the ghost's spiritual nature with a mystery, and so that's why I'm putting these two together. My next recommendation for you guys is one that I have given you numerous times, but I am still going to give it because I think it's fantastic, and that is Strange Beasts. This is a Sherlock Holmesian mystery that features two ladies who are solving a murder surrounding monsters in Paris. And the two ladies are Moriarty's daughter, her name is Hel, and Samantha Harker, who has connections to Van Helsing and Dracula. Sam has some abilities to commune with monsters. You'll have to read the book to figure out what that means. But this ability can put her in a lot of danger because if normal society, this is also a historical fiction, most society would deem her hysterical if she said that she has this ability or used this ability, and she would end up in an asylum. And so she has to be careful about when she uses it, how she uses it, and who she tells. And her and Moriarty's daughter, Hel, end up going to Paris to solve these really gruesome murders in a world where monsters exist. And they both are originally in, the institute that is sending them to solve these murders is a research institute where they actually do research and catalog all the monsters that are in the world. So it's absolutely fantastic. I would say is probably the closest that I found for a 50-50 split between mystery and horror. It might lean slightly more mystery, so maybe 60-40, but I do think that it's a pretty good pairing of the two genres. I am going to be reading, it's called Strange Practice, in order to, maybe get a book that is similar to Strange Beasts. It's weird that both of them have the word strange in them. I didn't plan that. But this I've been wanting to read for a while. It's been out since 2017, and it's been on my TBR forever. I just keep forgetting to pick it up. This is about Greta Helsing inherited the family's highly specialized and highly peculiar medical practice. In her consulting rooms, Dr. Helsing treats the undead for a host of ills: vocal strain for banshees, arthritis and borrow rates, and entropy in mummies. Although barely making ends meet, this is just the quiet, supernatural, adjacent life Greta's been groomed for since childhood, until a sect of murderous monks emerges, killing human and undead Londoners alike. As terror takes hold of the city, Greta must use her unusual skills to stop a cult if she hopes to save her practice and her life. It sounds like it's pairing mystery and monsters, which is something that I really, really enjoyed about Strange Beasts. And so I'm hoping that this can kind of scratch that itch, because I really did enjoy that. This has actually been on my TBR longer than Strange Beasts has. I just forgot about it until I read Strange Beasts and I wanted something similar. And as I was looking through my want to read shelves, I found this and I was like, well, that's perfect. I think that would be, the perfect book to hold the place until Strange Beasts gets a sequel. Yeah, I know. The last recommendation that I have for you guys, I do own, but Andy is currently laying on my lap. And so if you guys hear purring, that's why. But since he's laying on my lap, I actually can't grab the book that I was going to show you guys. So I'm just going to put a picture up on the screen. The book is Night Film, which I have talked to you guys about before, but I think that this is also a really good reference to have for what I mean by mystery horror. This does lean more mystery than it does horror, but I think that it's a pretty good mix. If you haven't heard me talk about this book, this is a mixed media book. Most of it is written, but you do have journal entries, you have darknet, like web posts, blogs, text messages. They kind of throw all of it within the book. You are solving a death. At the very beginning of the book, a girl she dies, and her death is ruled a suicide by the police. But our investigative journalist, who is the person that we are following, his POV, he knows that this is the daughter of the infamous Cordova. And Cordova is a famous horror director. There is an occult following surrounding him. His movies are on the black market. There's a whole bunch of really creepy things surrounding this man, and the investigative journalist has had some dealings with him in the past, and he believes that something more nefarious could have happened to his daughter, and he decides to investigate. And as he investigates, you really get to dive deep into the occult, essentially, that is surrounding Cordova, and figure out all of the dark pockets that exist in the internet and around the city for this man, and what that meant for his daughter. You also get to kind of take apart his life, his family's life, and figure out how they interacted, how they lived together, what their relationship was, as our investigative journalist is digging. There are a couple of characters in this that I really enjoyed that were side characters that come along to try and solve the mystery as well, and our investigative journalist is really not happy about it. He doesn't really want any sidekicks, but he gets them regardless. And I enjoyed that little bit of comic relief in the creepy. I also really enjoyed the ending of this book. I'm not sure that it's going to be everybody's cup of tea, but I just thought it was absolutely fantastic. So I did rate this a 4.75. So it was absolutely fantastic. I would recommend. I want to read more by this author, but I want to read her adult works. I have tried a YA book by her, but it just didn't work for me. I'm awaiting an adult novel from her, hopefully to come soon. The book that I am putting on my TBR for mystery horror that kind of matches with this one is called The Resurrectionist. And I think this might be slightly more mystery than Night Film, because Night Film could lean on the fact that one of the characters that we were investigating was a horror director. And so there was a lot of, you know, your classic horror, not tropes, but elements that would be talked about during the investigation because of that. Whereas the Resurrectionist, you are following a person who is in surgical school. I can't remember the city that he is in. He has gone all the way through these surgery schools, but he has never gotten to actually perform on a human cadaver. And they tell him the only reason, or the only way he's going to get to do this is if he goes to the elite schools, which he cannot afford. And instead, he goes and makes a deal with someone who is willing to give him access to dead bodies, and realizes that he's gotten himself in a little bit more, that he's bit off a little bit more than he can chew, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. It sounds really nefarious. The cover definitely screams horror. I don't know, because the synopsis to me does sound very mystery thriller, but I do think that it has potential. So this one is going on my list of potential mystery horror. So those are the recommendations that I have for you guys. One of the reasons I wanted to make this video was to reach out to you and see if you guys have any recommendations for this pairing of these two genres. Do you have any that you have really enjoyed in the past, or any that you have on your TBR that you're anticipating in the future? I would love to chat with you guys about your recommendations down in the comments below, or if you've read any of the books that I talked about, I'd love to chat with you about that as well. If you're not feeling chatty, but you still want to let me know that you're here, put a little skeleton emoji down in the comments. I really appreciate you guys watching these videos and having these discussions with me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!